Okay, with it being a couple of minutes after 5, we'll start the meeting. We didn't have any minutes to look at, did we?
We did.
2 sets.
517 and 621.
We have 5. I'm gonna have to abstain. I have not read them, so, 'cause
Okay.
I don't know why I didn't, but I
No
didn't.
worries.
So unless we still want to move on with the vote, I'm fine with it. If we have enough for a quorum with me abstaining,
Yeah.
So it would need to be the
as long as
remaining
everyone
members.
else is definitive, right?
Yeah.
All right, so I'll jump down there.
If you want, I'll make a motion.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of May 17th, 2022.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll abstain.
I'll also make a motion to accept the minutes from June 21st, 2022.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll abstain again. So 3-0-1 for both.
All right.
Do we want to,
So I was gonna.
yeah, go right ahead.
So Mr. Chair, today Mike McHugh of East Coast Renewable Energy had reached out to me. I think he had spoke to, was it Harry Mercedes? You had spoke to. So he's spoken to Harry about trying to meet with the EDC to discuss East Coast Renewable Energy and the program that they offer. And so I wanted to know if maybe just if Mr. McHugh being here, if we want to take him first.
Yeah.
Sure.
Do you want me to go to the microphone?
Yeah, whatever.
Hey, Harry.
Gentlemen, how are you?
Doing well.
Thank you for having me.
Good.
I appreciate it.
No problem.
As Patrick mentioned, my name is Mike McHugh, and I'm currently working with a company called East Coast Renewables. The reason I reached out to Pat and wanted to speak with this particular board is that, and Patrick and I had a discussion about this, and I know that he doesn't think this way. But what you'll find sometimes in IDC or in EDC, obviously your main mission or your most important mission is to try to bring in new business so that you'll offset the tax rate and, you know, economic development is a bunch of different levels. You've got people in here spending money, taxes, the whole 9 yards. You all understand that better than I do. That being said, I've run into instances in my past where very often an established business would also like some consideration in terms of you know, what the town might be able to do for them. You'll find a business will often say, you know, I've been paying taxes for 50 years. You know, I give to the Boy Scouts, I give to the Little League teams. You know, everything seems to be more directed towards bringing new business in as opposed to supporting and help the current businesses flourish. So this particular program that I've been out promoting, it's a program called Community Solar, and you may have heard of it. It's not new. It's been around in Massachusetts since 19, but of course what happened in 20. So it really hasn't gotten out there in terms of people knowing that much about it. What it basically is the Department of Energy Resources, our own state Department of Energy, got together with National Grid and Eversource, here it would be Eversource, and the solar farms that all are required to distribute their electricity to either National Grid or Eversource, depending upon where they are. And they got together and they created this program called Community Solar. It's in other states as well. But here, what they are trying to do is they're trying to get businesses, although they will do homes as well, they are trying to get businesses interested in using this solar energy, the solar electricity, that has no allocations at this point. You may or may not know that you have to agree to take solar power in Massachusetts, whether it's a business or whether it's an individual. They don't just give it to you. And as I was saying to Patrick, somebody once said to me, I don't care, as long as I turn the faucet, the water comes out, it's clean water. Is it coming from the Quabbin? Is it coming from the Wachusett? Is it coming from MWRA, if you want to spend $1 million? But it all comes from the same place. So basically what the state is looking to do is try to get all of that energy that really doesn't have any place to go, a place to go. Because the state obviously has put an awful lot of money into helping these farms develop. So they've got a big investment in this in terms of wanting to make sure that it's efficient, that it's doing what they said it would do when they got the money given to them in the budget. On the other end, you've got the solar farms. And the solar farms, as I said, you have to agree to take the solar power. So the solar farms, if they don't have enough people, or I shouldn't say people, enough electricity allocated that they're going to produce, they can't go online. They have to be 90% committed to before they can go online. So they're sitting around not making any money. So what the incentive is to businesses and homeowners is if someone agrees to take the energy coming from the solar farms through National Grid or Eversource, that business gets 10% off its electric bill for the next 20 years. It doesn't have to be 20 years. It's free to get in and free to get out. There's a little bit of a notification requirement to get out, because the state only allows people to go in and out twice a year. It's some old law. But anyway, 10% off. What happens is the solar farm pays your electric bill, and then they back bill you about 3 weeks later at 90%. So if your business is running $1,000 worth of electricity in a month, you'll still get a statement from Eversource. It'll say -1,000. And then about 3 weeks or so later, depends on the way the business wants to settle up with the solar farm. It can either be automatic withdrawal, it can be invoicing, or it can be on a credit card. But they'll come back looking for 90%. So they're looking for $900. So there's your 10% savings, there's your $100. As I said, it's free to get in, free to get out. And the other thing that Patrick and I were just talking about is the fact that a business will legitimately be able to say, we're using 100% renewable energy. And that obviously is, for lack of better terms, it's a good selling point these days as well. So it's win-win-win. It makes the state's investments in the solar farms make sense, make them efficient. It also makes the solar farms whole in terms of them turning on and being able to make their money. And then you've got Eversource and National Grid in the middle, and they're just kind of like middlemen. I don't really think that there's any positive or negatives that really come from the utilities. It's really the two ends that I talked about. That's about it. It's that simple. I always feel like I should be saying more. And in all honesty, when I was first approached to see whether or not I was interested in trying to promote this, it sounded too good to be true to me. It didn't make any sense to me. So I called up the Department of Energy, and I called the Inspector General's office. And they both said pretty much what I said in the beginning. Yep, came out in 2019. Nobody really knows about it because everybody's been hiding in the basements for the last 2 years. So our effort, my company's effort, is to get that information out there, get as many businesses and individuals signed up as possible to, again, make both of these ends happy, in a sense. And they're going to make so much money, the solar farms are going to make so much money, 10% means nothing to them. Well, I shouldn't say means nothing. And case in point is, and again, as I was telling Patrick, we have signed up the Rodman Arena. They pay approximately $250,000 a year in electricity, so they're going to be saving $25,000 a year on this program. But the $25,000 a year that the solar farm is going to back them up on, that's nothing to them because they're going to make so much money anyway once they get up and running. So it's worth their while. And not that it really is something to come before this board, but towns can do it as well. I'm going to talk with Jim about it at some point, and it's not subject to 30B regulations, so they don't have to go into any of that procurement stuff. But I don't know exactly what the town has in place in terms of renewable energy. And 99.9% of the time, this community solar will sit right on top of whatever else you've got going on, whether it's the aggregate rate that I believe Walpole has, whether or not you've got a purchase power agreement and you're buying through Constellation or one of these other energy providers. Whatever the bottom line is, it's 10% off the bottom line. So it's a no-brainer in a sense. So to get back to what I originally was saying, the reason I wanted to bring it to Patrick and to this board is it's something that I think that your existing businesses, and new businesses as they come along, but your existing businesses would, I would imagine, appreciate, especially given the fact that energy is now being said to be going up practically to 60% higher, especially Eversource. So this particular program won't wipe all that increase out, but it'll help.
Why? Why?
Why would it help?
Why will it not wipe that out?
No, it won't wipe it out,
Why?
because it won't wipe out a 60% increase.
Why? If we're getting from the sun didn't raise its price. I'm just asking why. If they know that it's not coming from Eversource, that we're paying for this renewable energy, and we can say that my business uses 100% renewable energy, how the heck do they know? How does Eversource know what power they're sending to my establishment?
Well, it all comes in like the
So
the
it comes in
description
from
of
the
the water.
power plant.
It comes in from the power plant.
Comes
it
in from the solar farm.
And it goes into one great
One big pool.
It's almost like an accounting procedure. They say that your business was sent 10,000 kilowatts of power this month, and we are going to take that on our debit sheet here. We're going to debit that against the money that the electricity we got in from the solar plant. It's an internal sort of mechanism.
All right, so let's say I'm a business and I use X amount of power per month.
Yeah.
But it all goes into the same pool, but when they send the power to me, just dumbing it down, when Eversource sends the power to my business,
Yes.
even though we know that's not the way it works, I'm drawing off something else.
Yeah, yeah. It's simple.
They send the power to my business. Why if I'm able to say that my business uses 100% renewable energy, why do I have to pay for the increase in the rest of the energy that's being produced by coal plants, nuclear, however they're producing it? Why am I mixed into that pool?
Because the rate remains the same. It's
That's my
whether
whole
whether
point.
they're getting it
That's my
whether they're
point.
getting it from the coal
That's my-
burners or they're getting it from the solar.
Why? Why is the rate the same?
The rate is whatever the state allows, the DUP allows the Eversource or National Grid to set. They don't differentiate between what Eversource is getting from the coal burners and what they're getting from the solar. It just, again, goes into this
So
one.
then how
great
come they're
big one.
giving me the 10%? I'm only asking these questions because
That's
these are
fine.
the
No,
questions
I
that
don't
are
mind
going
it
to be
all.
asked to me.
They're giving you the 10% because you have committed, your business has committed to using that solar power. So the solar field can tell not only Eversource, but they can tell the state, we're sending uppity squat amount of kilowatts to this business. So we've got 90% with your particular participation. Now we're at 90%, we can turn on. So that's why it's of interest to them.
When you say 90%, what does that mean? Like being able to use 90% of the power they produce?
No.
What does that
When
mean?
I say 90%, I'm referring to the solar farms. The solar
That's what I
farms-
mean. What's that 90% represent? 90% of what?
the-
And I
the
really
90
don't know the answer to that.
The 90% on the solar farms is a 90% commitment to take their energy. So in other words, they need to be able to say, we've got 100, obviously everything is 100%. We have guaranteed, and we have it in writing, and here are the agreements, and here's this, that, and the other thing, that 90% of what we are going to generate has a home to go to. And that's when the state allows them to turn on and start making their money.
So they need 90%, whatever their generation numbers are, they need to have customers that will add up to 90% of that
Yes,
before they are allowed to come online?
yes.
Why?
State law, I can't explain it. There are all sorts of state laws that I can't explain.
It's to get the tax credits.
Oh, that's, well, the
They can
tax
turn
credits,
on-
the track,
To get more this, they have a percentage, otherwise they don't get the tax, they don't get the tax.
And they also
credits.
get the recs.
It's not as profitable for them.
yeah, the solar farms get the
It's-
recs.
It's got nothing to do with using of the public or the state.
And that makes sense. If that's where the tax credits come in, then it makes sense that they want 90%. But does that mean that they won't even be able to the solar company won't turn it on until they get to that tax credit level, or the Eversource won't let them in until they get to that 90% level?
You'll have to say that again.
If they're not at the 90%
The solar farm,
committed,
yeah.
Are they really offline, or are they just not getting any tax credits?
They're offline. They're not sending any energy to Eversource.
Who are they sending it to?
They're not sending it anywhere.
So until they get 90% commitment, they're sitting there idle,
Yes.
dead, doing nothing?
Yes. They're not allowed to send. They're not allowed to go live.
I assume the Fed is probably incentivizing that tax credit.
But John's
to push.
right. I mean, there are RECs involved as well on the solar field
Yeah,
side.
no, you know, that doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
If that's the tax code they're working with, then that's whatever. They can't write that. What concerns me is
This
it's,
correct. I can put a solar farm in, and I can generate output to private parties. State's got nothing to do with it.
Yeah, but then you have to
There's
get into
there's no
hookups.
big door that everybody has to go through at 90%. There's nothing like that. In fact, the state inhibits the farmers and the people from putting solar online because they're protecting the environment, the Green Deal, the pastoral look of farms. They don't want solar, they make it difficult. But once they get a permit, there's nothing about who the customer is, but the pricing. It's like you can sell it to yourself. You can have your own internal system. You don't have to go anywhere.
And he is correct, but then you're getting into putting panels up, then you're getting into putting all sorts of wiring up. I think it's very difficult for somebody to take solar power from their roof and channel it right into the, I believe it has to go back to the grid, and then it comes back to you, and you get a credit. I don't think you can just hardwire in solar panels, but that's neither here,
legally
that's
or,
neither here nor there.
and I don't, when I ask you questions, I'm not gonna set you up. If I'm coming after you, I'll tell you I am.
Yeah, no,
But I'm just trying to understand it because people are gonna,
yeah.
you know, I think what you're asking this board is to say, yes, this is a great idea for the people that might look to the Economic Development Commission to.
Well,
do-
even if this board doesn't endorse it, and in all honesty, I'm not sure if a public entity like this can make an endorsement. If the board and Patrick's office just has it out there as an option.
Sure.
That's really what I'm
And that's it.
looking
And
for.
so when I'm asking these questions, I really would like to understand
Well, of
more
course.
about how it works. Because, you know, when I was sitting on planning board, we were discussing a solar farm up in North Walpole that had a lot of pushback, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And one of the things that struck me was that, you know, they're asking to put it in Walpole and whatnot. And I'll make this very brief, but you know, all the power generated from that solar farm would go to the state or to Eversource or to wherever, and then the town would get a lease
If the town owned the land, yes.
well, no, the county owned the land, but the town was getting, what was the number, 150,000 a year for that land, for that to be
Top of my
used?
head.
Not to the town.
To who?
To the county. To the county. Whoever has the title to the land was gonna get a land lease. And the problem was, the land came from the town of Walpole. The land from Norfolk Aggie School were tax title land that the Walpole town had, that we let them put a school on for the purposes of a school.
Right,
The
deed
objection
restrictions.
is, the objection is that, no, this is important.
No, I'm just saying, it's right, it's deed
That
restrictions.
No.
The Aggie School has 6 or 7 solar arrays, including a canopy array, which is more than the power they use. So they're right now, they're selling for profit energy off of the solar they've got right now. That new solar park would be 100% commercial. And the issue is, you're not allowed to have commercial businesses on school property, on public,
Gotcha. So this one's kind of an
public
anomaly.
property.
Yeah.
And it's no different, what they were proposing, no different, they put a car dealership up there or a shopping center.
Okay,
They
that
were
makes
taking
more sense.
public monies and trying to get into a private enterprise with a private solar company.
Gotcha.
For profit. That's what was wrong with that deal.
Right. But the solar panels that are going up there that are on top of their parking lots and whatnot, they're specifically using the power that they generate there for the school?
They're using percentage of it, they're using maybe 80-75%.
But
The rest of it is being sold
But they're
off.
fulfilling their entire power need.
Yeah, as far as, you're allowed within your own domain to have your green energy for yourself as a school, that's
Okay.
correct.
All right.
So, the additional amount they're selling is really not kosher, but that's. what's
Yeah,
going
that's
on.
that's different than what we're talking
But
about.
the issue
yeah.
was, the county, 50-some communities, there's only one place the county's put solar. They haven't put a solar panel any place but in Walpole. 6 arrays, they were proposing to do a 7th, but the 7th one was a for-profit. And as a taxpayer and other people, The government should come through us to get their budgets approved. We scale government to the ability, our ability to pay and the ability they need to operate. They're not allowed to go out and to create their own corporations and make profits and do business on public land that doesn't pay taxes.
Understood.
And make money for themselves.
Yeah.
And that's the pushback, is that you're letting the government out of the box to go into business and to go into competition against the private sector. And the whole.
I understand, I'm not sure, and I'm sympathetic to that, I get it, but that might be a conversation for a different time.
I was
Yeah, I don't know what
gonna,
this is.
Yeah,
because
what
it's-
I guess what I was trying to get to, and maybe it was a poor example I used, because of the weird anomalies that go along with that school property. But I'm assuming that what you're talking about are privately owned solar farms that are required to sell back or give back or provide power to Eversource and
Yes,
whoever the other one is.
National Grid.
National Grid, and then National Grid pools all of that power, and because I signed a deal to, in theory, want to be a green customer,
Yes,
even though a very small portion of the power that I receive will probably be coming from a solar farm, it's still coming from where everybody else gets it,
Well-
so you're paying 10% less.
you could play that
Theoretically.
game. I mean,
I'm not
I don't
playing the
mean it
game,
that-
I'm
I
just
don't mean that way.
asking.
No,
Yeah.
I didn't mean it that way, not sarcastically. But in terms of, like I said, the power is just in one great big pool. So to say that you're using only 10% of renewable power isn't necessarily true. It's also not necessarily true that maybe it's 100%. It's all in that great big, but the way you're being credited, the way you're being debited, is it's saying that we're taking your power from that solar farm. We're not taking that power from, whatever amount of power we got from the coal burners. We're not allocating your power to this particular slug of power.
Right, I have another simple question. How does East Coast Renewable Energy make money?
We get a commission from the solar farms,
Okay.
one-time commission from the solar farms.
Per sale? Per
Per
customer
agreement,
coming
yeah.
live?
Yeah,
So it's all commission-based?
Yes.
Based on number of
yes.
entities?
So
Why would they have to put a restriction that you can only cancel your agreement twice a year?
I can't answer that.
Why would
It's a
someone
state-
want to cancel their agreement?
I don't know why, and I haven't had anybody come to me and ask to cancel at this point. There's a state law, for whatever reasons, and it's probably antiquated, it probably doesn't make any sense these days, and I don't think it does. I don't think it makes sense that you have to agree to take solar power. But there is a
That was gonna
law
be my
on the
next
books
question.
that says people can, or entities can come in and off of the community solar program with that particular solar farm twice a year, January and either July or June. I always mix the two of them up.
Oh, and they choose the times a year you can do it?
It's just those 2 times a year, yeah. So we have I'm sorry.
So about 10 years ago, I remember there was a ton of people out there as agents selling discounts for delivery. And there was probably 5 or 6 companies that I can remember popping up. And now that's kind of gone away. And they were really just working within the delivery section
Yeah.
of that. I don't, what happened with that?
I do not know what happened with that, other than the fact that maybe this sort of a program and others like it have kind of pushed that sort of thing aside. I mean, you can still, most people do it, you can still go into a purchase power agreement where you, like with Constellation, or I'm trying to think of some of the other names, where you can lock in a rate for, like, it used to be 3 years, they may have increased it. That's still out there, and that's on the supply, that's not on the delivery.
What
That's
does-
about the
what
only
does
thing.
Walpole have, what I see every once in a
That was
while?
on the supply side, I think.
That's
Yeah,
Constellation?
wasn't it? That Walpole was pushing a couple of years ago.
And some people, a bunch of people signed up for that. 'cause
Yeah.
it was a
Oh, the
little less.
aggregate, yeah, the town is,
Yeah.
the town, like I said, I thought that the town was one of the communities that joined an aggregate agreement.
Yes, they did.
A lot of them have.
I think
Some
it
of them
was
haven't,
supply.
but,
Supply. So,
so I guess what it comes down to is on your bill, you'll see a distribution and you'll see a supply. At the very bottom, you'll see whatever it is that you owe for that.
and is there
The
other,
10% will come off that entire total.
are there other competitive companies that you have that do the
That
same?
do what I'm trying to do. I believe there are 1 or 2. There was a group running ads actually on WBZ and on the sports radio station for this, but they were targeting residential units, and I haven't heard the ads in a long time, so I don't know whatever became of them.
And does a business get anything else as far as a tax advantage in any way?
No.
No.
What if the committed users, customers, let's say, committed, statewide or however you do it geographically, because I know you're pulling from probably hundreds of solar farms.
Yeah.
But let's say the aggregate committed number falls below 90%. Does that mean that those solar farms are shutting off?
No, what they'll do is they've got a grace period to try to plug in.
Well, I guess my question is, if they don't, let's say that they don't plug, let's say that someone found out, and this is absolutely not true, I know it's on TV, I'm making this up off the top of my head, that solar panels cause cancer for anybody that lives within 1 mile of a solar panel, all right? Completely fake, it's just an example. So these solar farms shut down until they can apply some fix. Do we not get our 10% anymore now that those?
You'll still get the 10%, it's just,
Can I
and-
still
and-
say that I'm on 100% renewable energy?
well, I don't know if I would say it at that point, but the example that, and you prefaced it this way, the example that you bring up,
It's ludicrous,
It's
but I just wanted
ludicrous.
to make a point
Yeah.
about it. So,
and then let's say that happened, and I always say, well, let's say, there was an explosion and it took out the entire farm. A lot of people, a lot of businesses are concerned, am I gonna stop getting power? No, it's just gonna switch back over to the coal burners till whatever is causing the problem with the solar fields is resolved. I had somebody asking me, and I didn't know this either originally. We get a lot of snow up here. What happens when the panels are covered with snow? Well, they have an internal heating unit that after an hour or so, it's burning it off anyway. So if it's not producing for a couple of hours, there's probably enough energy already sitting at Eversource to cover what you need.
well, I would have to assume that those solar panels that your company is drawing off of are not all local. I mean,
They all are, well, they're not obviously in Walpole.
no,
Yeah, but they are local. They're not, we can't bring in power, or no one can bring in solar power from out of the state. And then it breaks down into the different regions in which Eversource and National Grid operate. So here it's Eversource. Let's say Bird Machine just put up another, 1,000 panels. That would have to go to Eversource.
okay, so I'm assuming that the
Eversource-
90% is something which would make sense, that maybe Eversource is saying, look, we don't want to deal with you unless you're bringing enough customers to the table that we're going to be able to make this worth our while
Oh, with
to deal with
This company?
a solar company, yeah.
No, they generally aren't like that, and I'll tell you why. One of the other laws in the state, and there's a reason for it, is that one entity can only get, it's either 32 or 36,000 kilowatt per farm. So when you get to a bigger place, you're actually linking them up with a bunch of different farms. So, and the problem was that Rhode Island started a program like this before Massachusetts did, and they had no cap on how much power any one entity could get out of any one farm. And all the really big companies said, well, geez, 10% off of our multi-million-dollar electric. So they used up all of the allocation. So the state of Massachusetts has limited it, although they're talking about pushing it out a little bit. They've limited it to a certain amount so more people will have a chance, so that, Bear, or whatever they're calling them these days over in East Walpole, they can't just jump in and take everything. That way the pizza place can get it. That way the town can get it. That's way the dry cleaner can get it. But what the problem, I shouldn't say the problem, but what it ends up happening is like with the Rodman Arena. Now, if we were to go forward and just sign them up individually, my God, they'd be linked up to probably 20 different farms. But what we're doing with them, because they have so much power, is we're waiting, we're gonna put them into a farm that needs an anchor account. The same sort of, theory that, Filene's is an anchor at the South Shore
Now I'm
Plaza.
confused. You said that Rodman Arena is a customer. that just signed up to take advantage of this program, which to them would be significant.
Oh, yes.
But what do you mean? I thought it was all pooled and then it's just an accounting situation. Why
Well,
would-
it is, but as far as allowing them just to deal with one farm, as opposed to, getting invoices in from 20 different farms, the state will allow
20 different farm entities, like 20
Yes.
different
contracts.
like
Yes.
you would be one company that provides this, and there might be 20 more of you.
No, I'm talking about fields.
So your company doesn't aggregate the fields and just bill them direct?
Oh, no.
Each
no.
field has to build what they sell
Yes,
to.
that's the way that it works.
So when a larger customer comes online, maybe like field 1 will get, 10% of their business, field 2 will get
Yes.
40% of their business, field 3 will get, and then they have to figure all that out?
Who has to figure it out? The end user?
Yeah,
Yeah, well, the end user would get, dependent again.
3 or
on
4
how-
invoices theoretically?
Yes. But of course, when you're a bigger entity and you're saving an awful lot of money,
No, it's worth it at that point.
dealing with a couple of, extra invoices once a month, I wouldn't imagine.
So if one of
Nobody's
those-
really complained about
The
it.
average business probably only gonna get one,
Right.
Two,
one or two.
yeah.
So Patrick, what are your thoughts on this?
So obviously, having Mike in today, I mean, I think the board should be in a position to endorse anything. It's more or less providing resources and being kind of another point of access with the town of having resources for businesses. And so the community solar program, it's another interesting program for a business or even a homeowner to save on energy. And so,
It's really just a private business, private homeowner
Yeah.
issue with the company.
yeah, the town shouldn't endorse anything. I think we're just trying to be,
But the
in a way,
Walpole-
conveying
The Walpole
information.
Chamber could, because it's good for
Walpole Chamber
business.
could, yeah.
And, coming from Norwood coming from Norwood with Norwood Electric, they've got cheap electric over there.
Yep.
And our business owners are potentially looking at 40 to 60%
In the-
hikes in their electric bills. over the next
Absolutely.
year or
So
two.
the timing is very,
Right.
very interesting. for
Well,
sure.
see, the unfortunate thing about Norwood and about North Attleboro and Mansfield and Middleborough is this particular program will not work in a community that has its own electric company. I live in Mansfield. I would have signed up 12 months ago, but I can't because
what was-
it doesn't work with
And
my
what did you used
community.
to do in Walpole?
What's that?
Your past,
Here?
yeah, you used to do, you were on a couple boards? You had his job?
Yeah, I was the first one to do his
You
job.
called it though.
Thought so. I remember him from that.
I remember you.
All right.
In Walpole?
Yeah, my office was
On the board.
on this floor, down the corner. It was like practically a closet.
A quick comment from the audience, John Hassinger. What's your thoughts as far as on a business level? It makes sense. I mean, there's no wrong to saving 10%.
No,
Whatever way you could save it, just bottom line business.
I didn't recognize this guy.
That's why I said John, and I looked at you. And I believe I know this gentleman
Confused
too
him.
from years
You
ago.
know Ken, Ken was
What's
on the
your
board
name?
then. Mike McHugh.
Mike McHugh,
Yeah.
okay, well, voice from the past.
Yeah, see?
You know what, he's one of the many planning board members, or planners we lost in this town. I think there's 14 of them.
I went off to run a town, went off to run Mendon.
But Mike, if I may,
You're
Yes,
like
of
number
course.
3,
you were saying that if a business went on with this, that they're gonna farm out the number of the quota or whatever. They base it on kilowatts that the company uses that they'll sell
Yes.
to each individual farm.
Yes.
So I would be getting an invoice once from Eversource. And now all of a sudden, if I go do this, I can get one invoice or up to 10 invoices on the same meter or the same use.
Yes.
So
Yes,
that would be kind of confusing, getting in
Yes.
10 invoices for what I used to get as
yes,
one invoice.
that is correct.
And
that's-
trying to match that all up.
and that's
trying
really
to
the
do it
only,
all.
in my opinion, and Patrick.
And so I'd have to take those 10 invoices to make sure that
Yes,
they
True 'em up.
coincide, true
They're
'em up
90%
with the.
less than the Eversource one.
So what would happen if you didn't pay one? Say you got 8.
I don't know. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know.
So you end up writing up 8 or 10 different checks maybe, as opposed to one.
Yeah, it depending upon how you wanna remit the money. You can, again, you can do it, but automatic withdrawal, you can have invoices and write checks,
Yeah.
or you can, give them a credit card. It just depends on what's the easiest thing or makes the most amount of sense for the business. If you're a smaller business, you might not necessarily want to do the automatic withdrawal because you might have a lean month and you might need a little more time to pay off your electric.
So your company,
I'm so confused.
what, you're your own entity, you don't work with Eversource or
The farm, he works with the
you
farm.
work for the farm? You are the farms.
We're agents for the farms, plural.
So you're an agent for as many farms as you can get to sign that agreement with?
Correct.
Okay. And the only farms that would supply through this program would be farms that you are an agent for?
No, that's not necessarily true, and as I believe this gentleman mentioned, or asked, I believe there are one or two other companies out there that act as brokers like we do. And what I have found is the gentleman who owns the company has been in the solar business, the renewable business for about 10 years now. So he has a very good relationship with most of the solar developers. And the solar developers, let's put it this way, someone just couldn't come off the street and have that conversation with the solar developers. It has to be somebody that they, for lack of a better word, trust, that they have some sort of track record with them. So, I don't know if that
It has
answers.
to be like an aggregator, like what you would be. You're,
Yeah, in a sense.
so it would seem to me that maybe, so would a customer sign up with you for this program?
We would, well, no, we would present an agreement, and again, dependent upon the solar field. All the agreements pretty much say the same thing. They were all, crafted by the Department of Energy. But they all take different forms. So it would just be a matter of, what solar farm we signed you up with and how it goes forward, the way that they bring it forward.
So you're, okay, so you're creating a.
But we don't
You're
get involved.
facilitating a contract between
Yes.
Company A
Yes.
and Solar Farm A.
Exactly.
Or Company A and Solar Farms A, B, C, and D.
Correct. Or if there are an A, B, C, and D.
If there are an
needed.
A, B, C, and D.
Yes.
And who manages those relationships as you move forward?
We do. If there are any
Well, if
issues,
Solar Farm A gets blown off the face of the earth, you're gonna quickly find Solar Farm F
we're gonna do our
and
best.
facilitate another
If
agreement.
there is one, yes. Or we'll
And
keep
if-
an eye out for one.
And if there isn't one, is that 10% savings in jeopardy for the company?
I believe that the 10% savings will continue on to a certain degree to give the entity the opportunity to find another farm to go into.
Now granted, 99% of the customers are not gonna be in that usage bracket where they're gonna have to worry about that. So I'm just trying to,
No, it's
as I said,
fine.
understand who we're dealing with, who a customer would sign up with.
Well, again, what we'd be the facilitators to the two entities on either end. The business.
What
and the
happens if
solar
you
farm.
go away?
Right.
What happens if you go away?
What, if I die?
No, like the
No, the
company,
company
if the
itself.
If the
contract, are
company
the
goes away, no,
contracts still in
we're not
place?
involved. We are not a signator on the contract. The contract is between party A and party B. We're just facilitating it.
So when that contract gets signed and, starts up, you get a one-time commission on that referral, if you will, or facilitating that deal.
Yes.
And then you move on to the next.
Yes, but we are still, and, we have been dealing with, minor issues here and there. We remain as a voice for, whoever we've signed up. And we tell everyone that we sign up, if you have an issue, call us. And then we'll try to figure out what the solution is, either with the solar farm or Eversource or what have you.
And I know you said this, but where is that 10% coming from?
What do you mean by where's it coming from?
You explained it, but I forgot.
Oh, okay, well, again, let's say you spent $1,000 in
Yeah.
electricity. You would get an Eversource bill that said negative $1,000. Then about 3 weeks later, you'd get a bill from the solar farm that we hooked you up with for $900. So there's your 10%, there's your $100. And then, up and down depending upon how much energy you're using. So for that $1,000, you've only paid $900. But you
So once
paid,
again,
you
if
paid down.
if I was consuming multiple farms, I would see, back to Danelle's question, I would see 4 bills from four
Yes.
different
Yes, you
farms.
would.
I'd have to add them all up,
And just compare them to that negative
compare
bill.
them to the negative bill to make sure it's fine. And then
Yeah,
if
and
not, am I going to you to say it came to 980 instead of 900?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, and we'd go and try to figure out what happened. But one of the things, and one of the reasons you're still getting an invoice from National Grid or Eversource, and the state put this in with the program, is so that you can back check and make sure that the solar farm, you know, is not messing with your numbers. So you can look at the amount of
Right.
energy that Eversource says you used, and you can look at the amount of energy that the solar farm is saying they paid for, and true it up.
Who shuts it off if you don't pay?
I haven't come across that. I don't know. I can't answer that question.
How do you measure the unit of energy? Is it kilowatt?
Yeah, it's kilowatts.
What costs more to produce a kilowatt? Burning fossil fuels and trash or solar?
Well, it all depends. You know, obviously the panels are fairly expensive, and then, you know, they amortize off at some point. I'd have to say it, in all honesty, I'd have to say that the coal burners are cheaper.
Because you would assume that the solar would be if they're giving you that 10% discount. So that discount must be being made up by the federal
Well,
government
there's
pushing
state,
solar and green.
yeah, there's state and federal recs. They've changed a lot over the last, when's the first time I dealt with one? Probably 20 years ago. And the recs back then, especially from the feds, were worth an awful lot of money. Then that went away, and they came up with something different, and then that went away, and right now it's, there are recs out there, and that stands for Renewable Energy Credit.
So if those weren't out there, if those credits weren't out there and the incentives, the tax incentives weren't out there, could anyone afford to provide solar power to anybody? Would our prices be lower?
Probably not. Probably the combination of either the straight grant money or the zero to low interest loans that the state has backed to produce those. No, I don't think if those things didn't exist, that solar energy at this point
So
in
we're paying
history
for it
would-
anyway,
would be
whether we want it or not.
Yeah, exactly.
Any state, they're just printing dollars.
Yeah.
Who cares?
How about-
Who cares?
We gotta move on. I think.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah,
I have one
I do.
last question, and
Yeah,
it's
please.
probably very stupid, but why wouldn't Eversource or National Grid have an option that I could opt in for renewable energy and I see this 10% off my electric bill?
Why they don't do it?
Yeah,
We're too big.
It's
they
just,
don't
it's
care.
just not within their business model. It's
They're
just,
not interested, they're being forced to do it.
yeah,
Right.
he is
It's up to
right.
them.
They are,
They would use all fossil fuels.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, it's-
John's correct.
that was my question.
They are being,
Government policy, in the wind turbines, the blade on a wind turbine costs more than any energy savings that
Yeah.
turbine's ever gonna produce to make that blade. But the government subsidizes the difference, so people think it's a great deal.
Well, I get it, but let's look at it very pragmatically. I think that regardless of whether it's real, not real, smoke and mirrors, whatever it is, the businesses in Walpole can save 10% until everyone realizes,
Yeah.
whether it's good or bad, whether that shakes out. Right now, people can save 10%, and for me, who my electric bill's $140 a month, $14, but for Rodman Arena, that's a whole different ballgame,
well,
so.
exactly, and
So I think that, at least for now, it's something that, I
don't wanna
hope people
spend
get
too
involved
much
in.
time, of
Yeah.
your time, but what I will say, along the lines of what you just mentioned, is because I worked here a million years ago, I did know a few people that were still on the main drag, and I went into one particular location, I won't get into what it was, but when I started talking to him, he said, yeah, I spend about $100 a month on electricity. And I said, look, I'll do it for you. I said, for $10 a month, it might not be worth your aggravation. Back to the point you just made.
Yeah.
Again, if you want the extra $10,
Well, it's still a couple
I'll
hundred bucks
sign
a
up, I got
year.
no problems
For me,
signing
it'd be
anybody
a couple
up.
$100 a year, that's great, but, I think the real benefit, it's like, to me, it's like a tax loophole. Whatever. If they wanna give it to me, I'll take it. If they want their folly to end up in my pocket, go for it. But, it's, I think we're gonna see a lot of this until renewable energy shakes itself out one way or another, positive or negative.
So Mike, if you wanna follow up with me in the chamber,
Yeah, sure.
I'll identify some companies that are probably, it's worth.
My info's probably down there, but just in case.
Yeah, I mean, again,
Oh, here.
from a
Just
commercial point of view, I
relax.
think
They're
it makes
free,
sense.
so-
Especially with where energy prices are set to go.
Is that a recyclable card?
But if he doesn't drive a Tesla, I'm gonna be ripshit. Did I say that?
You can't say
Am I
that.
allowed to say that?
But either way, I think we
Hey,
may want to
Patrick,
move on.
you got the 8 seconds on that thing, don't you?
So, Mr. Chair, so I mean, Mr. McHugh,
Thank
it's been
you.
great having you in. I think it's some good information for the board. I know we
Up at our next meeting and.
could take it up and continue discussion
Greatly
between
appreciate the
ourselves.
time,
All right,
gentlemen.
Yep.
thank
No,
you.
I
Mike.
appreciate you coming
Happy to be
in.
back in the building.
Great
I
job.
don't remember the last time I was here, but, and this room looks a lot nicer.
Cleans it
Take
up.
care, gentlemen.
All right, thank you, Mike.
Thank you,
Thanks
Mike.
for coming in.
All right.
Hold your horses there, you know? If you wanna be the chair again, I'm
No.
good for it,
No.
you know?
I
'Cause
will
I'm
say,
almost ready.
it's kind of a tight meeting night, so I think we do have
Oh,
to.
are we,
Probably
pressed for time?
6:30 is probably the.
Oh, Main Street Live follow-up discussion, let's do it.
Yep.
All right, it's gonna-
Oh. Ken has a question.
Oh, okay.
Mark, I just came down to congratulate you guys for a great job on Friday Night Live.
Oh, yeah.
And you came off so damn well, I can't believe it.
Well, it was good to see you
Yeah, I
there,
mean,
for sure.
thank
You,
for your
Yeah.
effort too, Ken, you know, thanks for helping Brian
Thank
and
you
I.
and John for your efforts.
And John, both of you guys.
No doubt. Thank you, Ken.
Okay,
but Ken, you know, next year we're gonna make you stay a little bit longer.
Yeah, next year, Ken.
Next
gotta
year, you're
remember.
in, long haul.
No wine breaks next year.
yes, but he has to check with his, cook,
Okay,
make sure that, he can handle.
all righty,
All right.
thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
Thanks, Ken.
Good seeing you.
The music was particularly good.
Yeah, the first band was great. If you guys don't know, the first band, the singer was John Hassenjager's grandson, and that kid is, no favors there, that kid is special, and he just happens to be John's grandson, but what a heck of a musician he is. So, having said that, Main Street Live, should we kick that off, the discussion?
To follow up for Main Street Live, I think it went well. We had a great evening in terms of weather-wise and temperature-wise and everything. That all went well. You know, from the onslaught, it looked like it was going to be a busy night. I want to say at 6 o'clock, there was probably 2,000 people on the two commons and the food trucks. They were off and running. And kind of was like that at 7 and again at 8 and again at 9. At 10, it started to die off a little bit, but the food trucks had pretty much been shut down at that point. Most of them ran out of food and everything like that. And I think we saw a lot of different people in the town come through, a lot of different groups, ages and stuff like that. So I think overall it was very successful. And I think I think everyone had a good time, to put it down. I think it's starting to get to be a real town event, you know?
I think so. I think the barometer of that is how many people are talking amongst themselves in the town and social media, wondering about the event, without us promoting it. They're asking us, you know, what are the bands? What day is it? When's it gonna happen? So when you get that kind of interest without advertising for the interest, you know, it's a good sign. In terms of the event itself, and I don't know which direction you were going, but I think we need to have a couple of off-planning season strategy sessions as to how we're gonna deal with, in my opinion, what this event needs now because of the size of the event. And more importantly, the requirements of the event, is a much more thought out and structured, sponsorship plan that starts a lot earlier.
Yeah.
So we can help grow this event and pay for it in a much more, robust fashion that we can count on without having to cross our fingers.
I agree with that, and that's something that we gotta handle because, you know, as we go through the accounting and everything that took place, you know, it was just a lot that goes on. There's a lot of expenses. We gotta get the sponsorship up in order to make some money, to make it really worth it and everything. And I know that Brian and Kevin and John came on in the middle and this is the start. So this is kind of like the first time without just you and I and Beth doing it. And, which we just need more people doing that. We need more boots on the ground getting sponsorship is what we really need.
And we need a robust plan
Right.
that takes into account some of the larger, what you would call presenting sponsors.
Right.
And, you know, that are separate from, the much needed and much appreciated, smaller business sponsors that want to be a part of the event, but, you know, aren't necessarily ready or able at this point to make an investment of that size. But there
Yeah.
are companies out there that are able and willing and want to make that investment now that this event, quite frankly, has earned investment of, and sponsorship of that size. So, but that kind of thing, takes planning that usually will span 12 months. So,
Yeah.
you know, if
Definitely
we,
agree, and Brian and I have had those discussions,
Yeah.
and even with Danell at the, you know, the waning days here of, you know, we got this other ball rolling later in the game and,
Right.
and wanted to time it around the event, but yeah, as a committee, we should come up with the plan of reaching out and letters on it. You know, Harry, you did a great job through the chamber, you know, we wanna thank you for that, but also, you know, how do we get this rolling earlier, getting commitments earlier?
right,
Another idea too could be, like, you know, the sponsorship placements were nice, you know, over the tents and stuff. But maybe next year as it gets bigger, on the two sides of the stage have like screens.
well, yeah, but those would be for presenting sponsors, because we're
Right.
talking about a lot of money for that. If people knew what our budget was, they
Right,
would,
well, I'm just saying,
Lose their
it's just more
yeah,
acknowledgement for the sponsors, if you're watching the band and you see the two screens, and then on the two screens, you've got the band still playing too, but then scrolling underneath that, like you've got Middlesex Savings, you've got the Walpole Chamber, that's just more, you know, because again, you're talking about, you want people to spend a lot of money, but people want to get a bang for their buck. One thing to see your name on the tent, another thing to see 3,000 people looking at it.
Oh, I agree.
Subliminally as well, you know?
I agree.
I'm agree, but in terms of the event, I don't think there's anything that we should be changing. I think it's just a great day.
Oh,
I think,
God, yeah,
I think, Patrick, one of the things we gotta do now is, Patrick, I think we gotta lock up next year's vendors now, just to remember to get the date in for next year. But I think of what we're doing there in terms of the entertainment, in terms of the food, in terms of the beer and wine, I don't think we should change a thing. I think we should just let it roll the way we did. Right number of bars, we could use one or two more food trucks, but I don't know where we're gonna actually start putting them, you know, because there was food trucks right from the corner of 1A all the way down Front Street. And then now I guess we gotta start coming up West Street. We might have to move all that band equipment and trucks in there if we're gonna get a couple more food trucks in.
I know the,
But there were a lot of long lines in the food trucks between
Yeah, early on.
6
yeah.
and 8 and somewhere in there that,
I know the Masons expressed interest on grilling and cooking hot dogs and burgers. We've got that little green section next to our office where we do that every once in a while. So if we could do that next year for you guys if you want.
the only thing I'd rather have them come onto the common, because I just don't want to get the crowd involved with that traffic
Street
pattern.
there.
And
Yeah,
it's
that's
only
fine, we
one
can do
way.
that too.
Yeah.
Absolutely, as long as we get that section,
Yeah.
probably right across
What
from
do you think the PD
You know,
would,
the Lions used to come and do it all the time, and then they just couldn't get enough volunteers.
what do you think the
to do it.
PD would think about the possibility of closing Front Street?
Entirely?
I think it'd be very tough, because coming out of that, I mean, after the commuter trains are done, maybe it's 7 or 8 o'clock at night, but it's a cluster right around there at 5:30, 6 o'clock, when everyone's getting off the commuter rail, trying to come out and pick up and leave the lots down there, and, you know.
Is front
One
right in front
day,
of your
though.
office?
Huh?
Is front right in front of your office?
No, in
No,
front of
that's
the
Elm.
Front of the
church.
church.
No,
Oh,
that's
yeah,
west
the
and
bus
Elm.
too, at that, the
Yeah,
bus still
there's
going
Yeah.
a
too.
sign there.
Bus
Yeah.
is still going to like 9 or 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Talking one day.
I mean, the only other avenue for them would be, what
Spring
is that,
Street.
Spring Street. I don't know, I don't know what it's gonna do in
Springsteen,
terms of us.
you pay for an officer on overtime to, run traffic out of Spring Street on 1A.
What's it gonna buy for us, just the other
A
side of
food
the
court,
street?
a food court in the big yard at the church that they've already had interest in providing for us.
I was gonna say, contract to the church, but
They've already
utilize
said
their
they'll do it.
parking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I never thought of that.
You
I
put
mean,
all of our
I
food trucks
kinda
in
think
their
that
yard
whole
as a food
common's a
truck.
food court.
Well, but we're running out of space, to your point,
Yeah.
you know? So, again, we're early, so it's something that we can think about. But even where we are now, if this was the status quo, we have deficiencies in space.
Yeah.
I don't think barring bad weather, we're ever gonna see fewer people now at this event. You know, knock on wood, but barring bad weather, I don't think we're
Yeah.
ever gonna see fewer people. So, depending on what the actual traffic is versus what we think it might be, we may wanna think about taking the church up on that and trying to utilize that spot. I think a food court over there would be unbelievable. I think it would help the event immensely. Put 4 food trucks over there on that yard. Maybe a couple more attractions for kids, things like that. I think would
Then
be
you'd have to
awesome.
cross the street and close the street.
Close the street, put the
Right.
food trucks in the church yard there and parking lot. Maybe a couple of more,
I think
You're better off closing the street that your office is on. That's still east.
7 West Street.
West.
West.
well,
Better off closing
to
that
my
whole
point,
thing.
that gets more traffic than Front Street does once the night gets going.
But you don't need it. You know what I mean? You could do without that street and everybody could still
Everyone
go
uses
around,
front and
or
they
then
go
come
around.
around this way.
I don't know what the fire department might say
You lose
about
Front Street, you got no access to the 1A unless you come back all the way around.
But they're sending people around anyway. The only
No.
people that you would lose on Front Street are people coming from where I live.
No, you can come up Elm Street.
You can't come up
And
Elm
take a
Street.
right.
You cannot
Street's
take a
shut
right.
down.
Elm Street is shut
Shut
down.
down.
Shut it
Yep.
right there.
Yep.
Yeah, because
No,
trucks
they shut it down the hill.
down the bottom of the hill, because
So you have to go out around.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. So the only people that are not able to go on Front Street are people coming from West Street. And they can just be, hey, detour, take Spring Street, you're never gonna get through the center of town.
But the street that your office is on, is it closed?
No, it feeds to the train station.
It feeds that
gives
way
the end.
only.
That way only. 'Cause
One way.
we take half the street for the stage. So we shut down half the street and just leave one traffic lane
Going
open.
that way.
Yeah.
it goes one way. My only thought on like the closing of Front Street, if you do that, do you think you may lose some of the crowd that would be there for the band if you have a lot of people heading towards?
Well, that's my problem. I gotta
Yeah,
get
I
a
think
band that
you would
wants to
want-
make people come there. But I don't think that it would be a problem because, again, I think the food trucks have become, I think the bands and the food trucks are 1 and 1A.
Yeah.
I think they're both every bit as important,
Oh, for sure.
you know, for the event.
Maybe we move the stage to Front Street and put the food trucks back to back and around in a circle on Elm Street.
I would love that, except we have tree problems there. That's why we moved it to
Visibility.
Elm Street in the first place, because right off the front of the stage are trees right there.
Down by the church. in front of the
And
church.
where we had it the first year,
Yeah.
facing the Santa Claus house,
Yeah, that's
the
right.
trees were a problem.
All right.
Good
But,
stuff.
again, we can address that with the fire chief and the police chief when the time comes. I think the most important thing we can do is get a
I still think
professionally
we have-
structured sponsorship opportunity in place.
I still think we have room to go up West Street with some food trucks. I mean, I know the bands
Agreed.
wanna park next to it.
No,
Ma-
we can
ma-
find
hour.
space for
Maybe
them.
we should be doing is
Yeah.
letting them park in front of West Street, in front of my office, in front of Lewis's building, instead of down that way, cause nobody parks there in front of that way. Shift that side.
Go right around the corner with it, and I'm
And then
sure that we
food
could
trucks
talk,
and go all the way
Yeah.
down
you know what,
around.
I'm sure we could even talk to the
It'd make more sense.
the
to do
folks
that.
down at like 55 West,
Yeah,
and just say, look, after 5 o'clock, can
Let me see, Bart.
crew and bands use your parking lot?
yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's not bad. I'll be contact.
What type of
Or even heard Lewis.
issues would the health department have if we're just doing a grill?
It's not about that, it's about competition for the food trucks, in my opinion. I don't know if it's a,
I-
if,
I
if,
don't
but
think
Health
that
department,
that's
you'd
gonna
still
be
have to
an
get
issue.
you'd have to get a 1-day food permit, same as any other food
And they
vendor.
just look at our grill and say it's clean?
Yeah.
Go right
No,
ahead.
they-
Oh, you'd
they-
pass.
They'll look
Well,
at
I mean,
that.
yeah.
No, they'll wanna make sure your food's refrigerated, the stuff that's going on, and they'll want, they'll also, what they've done in the past, if people were doing that, they wanted a water source, we just make sure we get the spigot turned on at the common, so people can wash their hands, and then just have proper hand washing, whether it's.
we would find a way to make it pass, but I'll be perfectly honest with you. Food trucks have a lot of options, as you know, and when they choose an event, they choose it, at least if they're a more sophisticated entity, they choose it under a lot of criteria. And if there's a low-cost food item available, like a low-cost food tent, and you're not bringing in like, Topsfield Fair type numbers, they know they're competing for a very relatively small amount of customers. And they don't want a $3 cheeseburger getting in the way of their $9 cheeseburger at Badass Burgers or something. And I'm not saying that facetiously.
Or
and
the
I-
$10 sausage.
Right,
sausage.
and so I certainly understand and appreciate what you guys are saying. If there's a way we can work it in, awesome. But I guarantee if this year we brought in that option, next year we would have a hard time getting some of
You
those
would
people
lose some
back.
people, correct.
Because they,
Well, we already had the 2 barbecue guys squawking this.
I thought they were gonna fight it out.
Yeah.
But as I said at the time, was
But
I
we
talking
need
to
more
you?
food trucks though, because there's long lines and.
Yeah, we do, we need
Sound
more
like they both
food.
did well.
We need, yeah, they did.
Yeah, they-
Yeah, so.
Well, that's what I'm just saying, there's
Maybe they
have
could go
another avenue for food and have it be the other side where we're just doing something simple.
Right.
And again, I don't think they were doing hot dogs, they were doing sausages. He wasn't.
No,
doing
there was a hot
dogs.
dog cart there, a hot dog business
Trolley
there too.
dogs.
Yeah, trolley
Oh,
dogs.
that's right, the
Yeah.
special
Yeah, the
dogs.
fancy dogs.
Whatever you guys think we can get away with grilling that doesn't take away from the other people,
Well,
it would bring more action to that side, and it could relieve a lot of pressure over there as well. So, I mean, again, if we're just doing more for kids, maybe we just say we're just selling to kids, 14 and under or something. That way the parents don't have to deal with all that and paying.
Let me ask you a question.
that's a
Let me
large
ask you a
part of
question.
The group
Let me ask you a
between
question.
5
Do you
and
guys
7.
only do that, or do you have like the Lions used to have with like a fried dough?
We don't have that machine. We can always rent it, but we've got a huge grill. That's a little.
Because I think our next step is to start adding, if we're gonna add, some, and I hate to use this term, but it's the appropriate term, some carnival food that we don't have there, so everybody doesn't have to have the, fried dough.
It's because he
Stuff
wants
like
fried
that.
dough.
stuff you can stand with.
I always want fried dough, but
Candy apples
having
next.
said that, well, like for instance, like, you know, maybe you get fried dough and, you know, you just said candy apples, stuff
Harry,
like
any
that.
interest in cotton candy?
Interestingly
I
enough,
get it.
cotton candy, you know, you get $6 for something that cost you, what, 15 cents plus the little piece of paper that holds onto it. So,
They just need the vendors from Fenway, all right? We get the sausage guy, Cracker
Yeah.
Jacks guy.
well, you know who the number one, you know who the number one guy at the Topsfield Fair is?
What is it?
Is the funnel cake guy.
Oh,
He makes 3/4 of his year on that one fair.
Yeah.
wow.
Funnel cake is like almost like pancake batter, and you take it into like one of those big things that squirts it out, and you just squirt it all out into a big thing, and it fries in a fried dough thing.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I've eaten my share of funnel cakes.
So I guess from here, what we need to do is, maybe in the next month or so, have John check in with those vendors.
Yeah.
And then throughout the rest of the year, start proceeding with vendors, and then maybe with John, we'll give him another task about getting local guys and get you hooked up with John, and, you know, have one person be the go-to guy for the food, so you can get the appropriate, mix of different characters and food there and everything. Everyone saw the accounting and everything I put out there. That's, anyone have any questions about the numbers or anything like that? Everything's pretty much self-explanatory. The expenses kept more in line, right in with last year, and the income was a little bit more than last year, because I think the number of people there was just a, you know, big difference with the donations that night, you know. And once again, the biggest downfall is we just don't have enough sponsorship, because the expenses are just so much. And I think the expenses are a lot, but I think it's because the event's so good, that's why we're making the investment into it. We just gotta make it
I think
return properly.
I think the event now has earned a higher level of sponsorship, but that takes development and
Yep.
then execution of a sponsored program.
Let's
Yeah,
get
so we have
one
to-
of these
yeah.
meetings here in the
So
fall.
I say
Let's get that
after the
discussed.
first of the year, we start putting that
That's
back
fair.
on the agenda
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
the first of the year.
And you've locked in some people for the 3-year plan.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
on the lower end. I
Yep.
know
So-
where Mark's coming.
Yeah, well, I mean, for like a presenting sponsor,
Well,
next
then-
year, we're looking at 5 figures.
Well, moving forward too, though, the earlier you start the PR on it,
Right.
you can put those sponsors out early, so
No
they're
one's,
gonna get
no
3
one's
months
gonna,
before.
and I agree with you, and no one, when you're talking about like a title sponsor, a presenting sponsor type
Well, just
sale,
even if
that's
it's-
but that's not
I
a
have it-
flyer type thing, that's a salesperson thing that really has to call on these and get into their marketing department and get on their spend for the year, and that has to happen like in the next.
Fourth quarter for them.
Yeah, it's
If
so
not
in the
tomorrow-
next
yesterday
few
for
weeks,
their-
yeah. So, but when you're talking about that kind of investment, somebody has to put that on their marketing budget for the next year.
Right, but I'm just still saying, as you start to advertise the run-up to the event, which is in September, say in June is when you wanna get that first, all right.
Absolutely.
This is coming out, and there's a flyer, again, that you've got on Facebook, but on that flyer, you've got your sponsors on there, so they're getting a lot more bang for their buck.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only point I'd like to make is on the operational end, that we start on the earlier side with, boots on the ground, selling beer tickets and all that,
Oh, we need
which
more
is tough. We
volunteers.
have five, there's 6 people.
Yeah,
So
no,
that
it's
maybe
not enough.
think out loud of, do you bring in other groups, i.e., the
Junior
football
Women's League,
club
yeah,
or
something,
junior
I know.
women's club, and then maybe do a handshake with them on what they can do at a booth. I don't know. I'm just tossing around ideas.
I
but
know we need more people for that.
we need more people.
And the
you know,
town's
as we
been
all
good
know.
with the cleanup, that
Well,
all
maybe
went
we
very
make
well
that
this
part
year.
of our sponsorship inventory. The
Potentially.
ticket sale and booth sponsored by XYZ company, and they bring in 2 or 3 of their people and they run it.
That would be
And
awesome.
and it's a trade, you know what I mean? I think having various types of sponsorship inventory would work out well for an event like this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, well, put that on the agenda after the first
Yeah.
year, I guess, so.
Absolutely.
That's about it.
So the other reason especially for a meeting a little bit earlier, I'd like to kind of pass over to Harry on a discussion regarding the Walpole Business Forum and a networking event that I think the Chamber is starting to plan.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, Ed had to, is it Ed or Ken? I keep on calling them both.
Ken.
Ken.
Yep.
Ken just got back to me this morning about the Walpole Country Club.
Ken Fedek?
Yeah, because he's a member over there. He's just, and now they just have to ask the cook if he's available, because I want to do it in the morning.
Okay.
Do it like old school time, like we used to. I would say 7:30 a.m. start time, go to about 9, and then get people out of there and off to their jobs. That is probably gonna be the best turnout, I think.
Are you sure about the club?
Almost sure.
Okay.
Ken said that the manager said yes, and now he just has to check with his
Okay,
cook.
good.
So in terms of a date,
Oh, November
November
3rd is the Thursday,
Okay.
7:30. I'm gonna say 7:30 a.m. start time. I'm gonna
So
probably
you got
say
so
7
you got-
a.m., huh?
You got a month to,
There's not much to do.
well, I'm just worried about the inviting and the
Yeah,
commitments.
advertisement materials. I know you probably have a ton of contacts with the chamber.
Yep.
I can also try to disperse advertisement material through the listings I have for businesses as well. If that's helpful.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah,
I'll come up
yeah.
with a flyer this week.
Okay.
Send that to you. You can shoot it out to all your people. I'll send it all to my people. We'll push it on all the Facebook stuff.
Excellent.
The hope is to, again, I'm gonna say 7 o'clock is what the start, when we open, and people can network. At 7:30, we're starting with a couple speakers. So I'm not sure who the speakers will be yet, but something regarding economic development, something regarding Human Resource 101, some changes that have happened within the last year, and then maybe another guest speaker or so. But then also have some of the heads of each department, whether it be the building inspection department, somebody from, maybe you sitting at a table and having the ability to people, business owners to come over and just meet you.
Yeah.
Meet the building inspector, maybe get some information for them and ask some questions. And then I might have some of them speak too briefly on what they're seeing as far as, new businesses. These are the top 3 problems we're having when we're walking into a new establishment. So look out for that,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Maybe I was gonna say we'll work together. Maybe try to get some sort of like interactive, you do like a Google form or something like that, like just general questions that when you show up, just to get from the town to get data.
Prior to, you mean?
Prior to, or even when they get there, even if you could do it as like a QR code and people get general questions about what are your biggest concerns going forward into the next year? What do what type of resources could you utilize from the town? I mean, anything that's kind of just general information might be a good opportunity. I'm just thinking off the cuff to try to get some raw data from actual business owners in terms of what their needs are, what their concerns are.
I think we did that in the past, if I
Yeah.
recall. I don't know if Liz Dennehy did that.
Probably.
But we did it before COVID. I remember last time we used to
Yeah.
have those economic development used to have them.
Okay.
And we tried to do it twice a year, was it, or once a year we did it? At
We
the
did it
thing?
twice a year once.
Yeah, we did twice a year once, but we tried to do it one time a year. We'd get 90 to 100 people there.
Pretty good.
And I assume you're trying to follow that same format? You
Oh,
attended
that-
those, right?
Oh, yeah, same format.
Yeah.
Stephanie had the,
Stephanie
from
used,
State Economic Development come
Yeah.
sit at the table
Okay.
too.
And that's when we identified the Business of the Year as well. That's gone
oh,
away.
yeah.
So that's, we can bring that back too.
So, I guess, I mean, I know it's a little bit under a month. If that works for you, and
That's
it's
plenty
fine,
of time
if
for me.
there's any, yeah. If there's any other research to John's point, if I mean, I could reach out to somebody, I just don't know if that, a month is enough turnaround time with
For
them.
what?
If you wanted me to, I don't know, the idea of reaching out to somebody from like DHCD or someone from the state, I don't know if that's an
Yeah,
interest
I'll
or.
get back with you. We'll
Yeah.
have a conversation. I'll call you this week.
When's election day?
7th.
Oh, good.
Well, correct, I
It's
think
gonna be a
it's the
Thursday
7th.
though,
Tuesday.
so yeah.
Is it Tuesday the 7th?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
right?
so.
Yeah.
3rd, 4, 5, 6, might be the 8th.
Bring some absentee ballots.
November the 8th.
Yeah, they're all gonna vote early anyway around here.
You'll also find some stuff in the files about that.
Definitely. Yeah.
in
Maybe we'll have
probably
John be our
email
guest
list,
speaker.
and I think they were emailing out
Yes,
flyers
yes.
for the EDC for the Economic Development Breakfast.
Okay. I definitely have any.
What do we call it? Business forum, right?
That's what, this is what we're doing. It's,
Okay.
I'm saying this is EDC's thing.
Oh, I thought this
With
was
the
Chamber
no.
was doing this.
Well, the last one we did, which I believe was either Stephanie,
No, it wasn't, it was.
It was Liz?
Liz.
all right. but
'Cause
we
I
did
went
one- We
to
did
it.
one with Stephanie, and then remember Joan DiPietro was one of our speakers. Then we did, the last one we did was with Liz. And I was just kinda like, it was Economic Development Business Forum
Yep.
with the Walpole Chamber. And this year, we're also gonna include Destination Downtown, cause they wanna be a part of it too. And their contacts will be, big to have too.
That's fine.
There'll be a lot of
I think they
attendees.
should be involved with it.
One
Yeah.
thing that came up, and I don't mean to intrude on the meeting, but, they were in front of the selectmen the other night asking for money for the destination downtown. I don't know if you were there or not here, but, they were describing the things they wanted to do. They wanted to put audio systems in the square.
Yep.
Downtown. And they wanted to develop events in the evening 4 times a year. It sounded like, I mean,
Event
sometimes
programming.
imitation's the best form of flattery. Sounded like they were trying to come up with,
Well, they're trying to do,
Similar kind
they're
of
trying to start,
discussion
they're
they
trying to
had.
do Main Street Live
why not
mini.
yeah, well,
They're trying to do like mini Main Street Lives throughout the year.
I think they're looking to try to have more programming and utilization of the common.
Yeah.
Kind of your point.
yeah,
When you
I
have
think
that
programming
resource.
would be
Yeah.
fine. I wouldn't wanna see them imitate
No.
this.
No, it's gonna, it would be at a much smaller scale, but it brings more consistent activity to downtown. Now that we've got the Walpole Lights Department, the new
Yeah.
group that's doing the Walpole Lights, we're still involved as a chamber, but to have the music down there with speakers doing
Yeah.
caroling and Christmas music brings more people down to do the stroll and then go to the businesses and have dinner, et cetera. So I think, I mean, the town allotted 50 grand, I think, towards something for
Toward
downtown.
50 grand toward that. Towards
So
that.
that's what they're trying to get a piece of, right?
250 grand towards downtown?
No,
50.
50.
Jesus.
50 grand, and that's gonna be, they're trying to get a piece of that
I believe they
specifically.
allotted 100,000. There's 2 different projects. It's for
Okay.
downtown improvement, downtown common improvements, as well as wayfinding and signage.
All right, that was separate.
Both projects are actually from the Rapid Recovery Plan, John.
So woke.
Is that where they're being funded from?
No,
Wayfinding.
both
You know what
projects.
wayfinding is.
I know. Both projects come from recommendations from the Rapid Recovery Plan that we went over last year. Actually, both come from the Rapid Recovery Plan, but also are referenced in the Parking and Economic Development Study in 2019 and in the Downtown Action Plan in 2015. So both of them have kind of been tossed around as kind of action items for the downtown for about 8 years or so.
Sounds good.
So what do we need to do? What are you looking for us to do?
For the business forum,
Yeah,
I'll let you know,
Okay.
as things progress, I'll just ask you guys to share it and invite people on Facebook as much as possible and through personal email. Just get business owners and salespeople that cover Walpole, get them there, that's it. And,
And that's November 3rd
Oh.
at 7:30.
and I may look for a little contribution from EDC as far as the food cost. I think the cost of the country club will be nothing, maybe $50, but there'll be a food cost and the chamber can kick in. The EDC should kick in, I mean, it's their thing.
Yep.
Sounds like a plan. So as of right now, we don't have any action items until you let us know.
Yep.
Okay. I can deal with that.
Other than you've given me approval to start moving forward and organize it and pull it off.
Yep.
Sounds
I'll
good.
make a motion if we need a
Seconded.
motion. I'll make a motion to allow Harry to go and start forming the Economic Development Business Forum in conjunction with Chamber, conjunction with Destination Downtown.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Didn't know if Beth was still there, but she is.
I am.
So 4-0-0 on that one. Good, Harry, yeah, I hope that works out. I know it was very popular in the past, so hopefully we can bring that back into prominence. Do we have anything else?
No, I think we're good.
And we're running out of time anyway, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Well, any department updates or
Nothing.
anything going on with businesses? I know that Rita's opened up.
yeah, my daughter works there, she loves it.
Oh, does she?
And they're
Good.
banged out every night.
There's the
What?
Rita's.
Cosmos opened up.
Cosmos opened up, Rita's opened up, and I believe there is might be getting the name wrong. There's a running store going in.
Yes,
Yeah.
what's going on West Street?
Run House.
Run House.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and what's going on with out back at the former, I don't know if it was Westbury Farms or next door to it?
It's been
What's going on there? Is that proceeding?
so the owner of that CVS Plaza, so to speak. I think they've been updating that building and then a building across from that for. I've been told bagels. I've been told ice cream. I think they've been under construction though for
Yeah.
a while.
I was
so-
told bagels too,
Yeah,
that's what I
bagels.
heard.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is there any action at all on any of the commercial space in the two big apartment buildings, 95 West and the other one?
Nothing that's been in front of me. It's been on and off kind of since I've got here. I've talked to some people that sound like they were interested in speaking to the leasing agents, and then they've always kind of fizzled out. So I haven't heard anything concrete.
Just a real quick, simple question, simple answer.
Yeah.
Do you feel that people are running into town roadblocks or roadblocks from like Corcoran, for instance, the owner of the building?
I mean, I've been pretty. I mean, from the town side, it's usually it's been me. Sometimes I'll talk to the building commissioner. So we're
So
pretty
it's not even
receptive.
getting far down the road.
It's not
with the
getting
town.
far enough
Okay.
down the road to be an issue.
So their financial terms are probably not what they deem viable from the building management, as opposed to the
Yeah,
town throwing up
I don't
any
want to
roadblocks.
speculate because it really, from our side, it's really they've come to us and they've talked about the interest of going there and tried to answer as many questions as we can, but it hasn't really gone anywhere
Gotcha.
since then.
Well, do they end up going somewhere else or it doesn't happen?
I don't think it happens.
Yeah.
Both locations aren't that, I mean, the one where you're building, that left section,
Yeah.
could be something at some point, because it will cater to the people in the unit, I think, the establishment, which would probably be the best idea, that they're getting their money because it's so local. But the LaRusso building, the other one,
Glenwood Ave.
Glenwood, you can't find parking. All the residents park right along the parking spots there. So if you've got a business there, you can't park. So I don't see anything going in there. other than-
6,000 people come to Main Street Live. If the restaurant's good, people will park.
Yeah.
That's all I can
That's
say.
interesting.
You know, I hear you, but whenever people want to go to something, they find a place to park.
And another note, X Golf just opened
Yeah.
at
No, I
Walpole.
was looking
Where?
forward to that.
The
The
mall.
mall, yeah.
Next to Audi, what is it called? Aldi.
Yeah, no,
So
that's a
they're
great, have you ever
open.
been to an X Golf? Those are
I
pretty cool.
haven't, but I did the tour of it.
Yeah.
They just joined the chamber as well. And so you bring your own clubs, you play those courses, you're probably spending 3 hours to 4 hours there.
Full bar.
Full bar,
Like food.
food. Looks like fun.
Yeah.
Is it a party place or a small group place?
It's a party place, yeah.
got, like,
Yeah, you wanna bring like,
Base.
Bring a large group in there?
Yep.
Yeah.
Bring a foursome, yeah.
It's very common to have a corporate,
And they're gonna have leagues in the winter, so you can go every week as a team and then play against other teams and stuff like that. Looks pretty cool.
it's a chain. The guy, they own like 5 or 6 of
Yeah.
them.
All right.
Anything else?
That's all.
What Cosmo's
John,
doing
anything?
good?
John?
Uh,
This- you-
I hear
From
they're-
what I've heard,
they're
yeah.
doing wonderful.
I was
People
here
telling me it
Thursday,
sounds like they-
they've been banged out for 10 straight
Yeah.
days,
Yeah.
so.
And it's good?
Menu looks good.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
food
Yeah.
is very good, for
Great.
an Irish guy
Well,
eating
we-
Greek food,
Yeah, there you
I
go.
put 2 thumbs up.
Yeah,
but-
great.
Well, we still have Beth make a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, absolutely. Do it.
Any seconds?
Any second?
I'll second.
Second.
All in favor?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Opposed. Who was opposed?
Good night, Beth.
Bye, guys.